p.m. If you all would mind, please join me. Stand and we'll pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to follow the board packet that we have delivered by our town clerk. Hi, Donna. I don't know if I saw you, but good evening to you. Thank you for preparing our packet. On my packet, the supervisor acknowledging the receipt of monthly reports from code enforcement, Justice Department, town clerk, and police chief Arthur Abbott. We have a resolution to accept the minutes. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of our regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on August 24th, 2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilperson Dave McMillan.
Aye.
Councilperson Maria May.
Aye.
Councilperson Jay Reichcott.
What's going on? Aye.
Thank you. Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay.
Aye.
And myself, Supervisor Ken English. Aye. Thank you all. Meeting minutes for our last meeting are accepted. Town Supervisor, Town Board update. I'll pass the baton to the Town Board in just a minute. I did want to update people on a very important meeting that was held. It was the Tuxedo Farms LDC. And sorry, I'm getting my notes up. This Tuxedo Sewer LDC, Local Development Corporation annual meeting was held on Tuesday. Was held on Thursday. I'm looking at the wrong place in the minutes. Thursday, September 10th at 11 a.m. Resolution was issued. The key notions in that resolution, I'm going to share with you the resolution because it was very important to the town of Tuxedo, especially people living in the Hamlet Sewer District. A lot of work went into preparing for this meeting and assuming the responsibilities of CEO and president of the LDC. I can tell you I put in dozens of hours into this work, and the work is just beginning. So this resolution was to initiate operations of the wastewater treatment plant. I'm sorry, Michelle or Dave, I'm hearing some noise in the background. If you could try to isolate it and mute it, I would appreciate it.
You're the only one that's unmuted. It might be your side.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'll continue. Whereas the town of Tuxedo's existing hamlet wastewater treatment plant is beyond its useful lifespan, its failure may be imminent without the infusion of large capital investment, and according to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, it needs to be replaced as was contemplated and provided for within the framework of the 2015 agreements between and among the Tuxedo Farms Local Development Corporation, the Wilmington Trust National Association as trustee, the town of Tuxedo on behalf of itself and on behalf of the hamlet of Tuxedo Sewer District, the Tuxedo Reserve Owner, LLC, and the Tuxedo Sewage Works Corporation. And whereas the Tuxedo Reserve owner, LLC's obligation as developer to provide sewer service for its Tuxedo Farms development resulted in various 2015 agreements to have a new wastewater treatment plant constructed on the site of the town's existing Hamlet sewer plant, replacing that plant with a new modern state-of-the-art facility capable of treating effluent from both Tuxedo Farms development and from the Hamlet sewer district. And whereas the special permit for the Tuxedo Farms development project provides that the new sewer treatment plant must be operational prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy. And nothing prevents that obligation from being satisfied by making the plant operational now. And whereas since the construction of the new wastewater treatment plant constructed on town property has, according to Tuxedo Reserve owner LLC, been substantially completed and can be brought online and made operational within a relatively short period of time, it is economically and environmentally preferable to make that plant operational rather than prolong the use of the Hamlet wastewater treatment plant. And whereas this LDC owns the new wastewater treatment plant and has a contract with Tuxedo Sewage Works Corporation for the operations of said plant, now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that Tuxedo Local Development Corporation work together with the town, Tuxedo Reserve owner, LLC, and Tuxedo Sewage Works Corporation to complete the remaining construction and service initiation in a cooperative and timely manner so that the new wastewater treatment plant can be placed into operations so as to be ready and able to meet the effluent from the Tuxedo Reserve development as if and when it is capable of discharging effluent, and to treat the existing effluent from the Hamlet sewer district on or before July 1st, 2021. 2, that the town's engineers establish a timeline and critical path forward with cost estimates. And lastly, 3, that all parties to the Memorandum of Understanding for the construction and operation of a new wastewater treatment plant dated May 11, 2015, the amendment to the MOU dated June 15, 2015, the sewer construction and funding agreement dated June 1st, 2015. This is agreement dated June 1st, 2015. The lease agreement dated June 1st, 2015. And the trust agreement dated June 1st, 2015, be placed on notice of this resolution. This was passed on a motion by myself, seconded by Michelle Lindsay, and voted on unanimously by the LDC board, which includes Jay Reichgott. So I'm very proud of the actions that we're taking. I do look forward to working cooperatively with all the players in this agreement as we're outlined in this resolution. And hopefully together we will have the new wastewater treatment plant online as is outlined in this resolution by July 1st, 2021. So that is of extreme importance, certainly to residents in the Hamlet Sewer District, a small group of residents in Tuxedo Park, and to the town in general. We can't have a town that's struggling to meet its basic utilities needs. And if anyone has visited the current wastewater treatment plant, you would certainly know that plant is well past its useful lifespan. And we need a plan to bring the wastewater treatment plant, the new plant, online. So that's the crux of that resolution. And I look forward to working with not only the Tuxedo Farms LDC, the town board, related, our attorneys, and every other player that's mentioned, certainly the related group, and Mr. Andrew Dance. I'm going to turn the updates over to our town board members, and that was my main element of my update. Thank you very much. Michelle, would you like to just see if anyone on the town board had an update they'd like to share?
Sure. I just have one thing and then I'll pass it on. But yeah, I want to thank you for getting that meeting together. I think we made a lot of progress on the sewer project. So for me, my update is as part of our economic development efforts, we, and with the town board's approval, we moved ahead and had a billboard designed for the Quarry Field billboard. And I want to thank Deirdre Murphy for coordinating the graphic design of that. So that's in the works. So it's part of our economic development to just promote Tuxedo. So that's my update.
So I can give you an
I'm sorry, Maria, excuse me for my mute was on and I just went up with Michelle. Do you have a copy of that graphic that you could show, Michelle?
Yeah, maybe while Maria's updating, I can pull it up and share it on my screen.
That'd be great. Thank you, Maria. Excuse my interruption. Please go ahead.
Not a problem. So we had a conversation with IWS representative about the glass recycling. That has been an issue that has come up in the new contract. So the first thing was I searched the contract really carefully. I searched for glass, and there's only mentioned twice in the contract. It was never mentioned that they wouldn't recycle it. It just mentioned that it is harder for them to recycle it because of the way that they collect the garbage. So basically, the way that Orange County recycles is commingled. That means that everything is put into a conveyor belt and then it's separated. The problem is the way that IWS collects the recyclables is in a truck that crushes the garbage. So what happens is the glass ends up getting broken, and then it makes the paper goods not viable because of the glass shards. So that was their their reason for putting no glass in the new toters that are given to new people. However, that wasn't really in the contract that we negotiated with them. So we're trying to figure out a way for them to collect our glass and to recycle it. So we're still in conversation with them. She had two suggestions. One was to find places both in northern and southern part of town where people could bring recyclables. That seemed like not such a good idea, meaning that people would have to drive in and myself here to bring recyclables to town. So even if they put them in close by, that seems like something that our residents didn't have to do before. The other thing that she suggested was collecting paper 1 week and then commingled, which is glass, plastic, and bottle and aluminum on opposite weeks. But so those are the two things that they presented originally. Michelle and I have spoken about maybe other options that we can have. So we're still in negotiation with them to see, to figure out some way in which we can recycle glass that is acceptable for everyone. So, any questions?
Maria, I have a comment. This is Jay. My parents' house over in Larchmont, they have a bifurcated truck. So it has, two smaller compactors, and they throw the cardboard on one side and a commingled on the other in a single run. I don't think our contract allows us to specify what equipment these guys are using, but if they're planning on buying a new truck, maybe they should buy one of those.
Yeah, she talked about that. She talked about, like, for example, in Rockland, they actually have trucks that are like these, they look like pickup trucks where the glass can go into that doesn't get crushed. But right now, you know, as you said, that's not part of our contract with them. We can't make them buy new trucks. So she said, so because we asked, how about like maybe putting all the glass in like recyclable see-through bags or something, or on a separate bin so that it could be picked up at a point where after it gets crushed or something. And they didn't think that that would work. I think part of the issue, and I've heard, I kind of searched a little bit of other towns, and the problem is that the cost that companies can get for recycling has dropped. So, and that's so particularly for glass. So it's not as you know, profit making for them to recycle glass. However, that's not in our contract. In our contract, it says, and also in Orange County law, it says that glass is recyclable. So they didn't say that they wouldn't recycle it in our contract. So I think we just have to find a way that, you know, that they can work with us somehow. And I will mention to them, I remember I work in Rockland, so I've seen the recycle trucks where they collect the glass. I don't think our citizens would mind having to separate. But I think that I polled some people from the various parts of town, and the problem is that they want to recycle glass. That's a large part of our recyclables. So, and most of us have moved from plastic to glass in order so that it can be recycled. So, but I will keep that in mind. We are continuing to talk with them about a solution to this issue.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay, let me see if I can share that screen now. Here it is. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Alrighty, so that's it. And it'll look really nice, I think. Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry?
I was just saying, I think the town board approved that for presentation on our Quarry Field billboard.
Yes.
And I see we got an invoice that we'll be approving tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's along with our expected revised website. I think, you know, we're taking efforts to try to market our town and get people who drive through to see it's a great place to tap the brakes and hopefully spend some money in the future, and just think of Tuxedo positively as a town for opportunity, and obviously a place that we're all very proud of. Our friendly neighborhoods and schools, business opportunities, and surrounded by parkland, tying into the Orange County themes of live, work, and play. So thank you. And to tag on to Orange County development, as we have been trying to do with our webinar with our state elected officials and Orange County officials. So I think it's great. Do we have an idea when this actually will be printed and posted? I think you're on mute, Michelle.
It's in the works. It's at the printers right now. I don't think it'll take very long, but to get it, I'm hoping that we can time it when the website is at least in the works. I guess that's a point of discussion if we want to put it up now or wait until the new website is operational.
I think that timing would be most appropriate.
I think it would be better.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I like one last question of logistics. I'm not sure who actually mounts it. Is it the highway department?
Correct.
Well,
They
that's
put
fine.
up the last one. They put up the last one, and they would do this one as well.
Well, that's very gracious. Who would have thunk it that the highway department is also hanging billboards? But they do a lot of things that we probably don't get credit for. And thanks.
The ones that actually built it.
There you go. Even more so. Those guys do a lot. I guess I neglected to update my supervisor's update how much work they're doing at the dirt pile up on Long Meadow Road. I don't know if you've been there recently, Dave, but pretty incredible the amount of separation of those materials that's going under there, under the watchful eye of the DEC. Our site monitor couldn't be more pleased with the progress that they're making there, we're making there. And so I didn't want my update to be too long, but that was one that should have been mentioned. Absolutely. They are making incredible progress.
I went by there this weekend. Very impressive.
Very impressive. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that both you, Dave, and Jay had an opportunity for any updates or comments you wanted to make.
I don't have anything significant, but I do have a question for Maria. So we haven't heard anything. I mean, I guess I'm kind of concerned in the amount of time it's taking for Civic Plus to get us a sandbox website. So anything there you can update us on?
So I spoke to Natasha Martinez, who is now that we've gone to the next level. So I checked to see that it was July 27th was when we signed the approval for the mock. And I just emailed her today. I emailed her already once 2 weeks ago. And she said that we were in the pipeline, that they are a little bit behind, but that they're working on it. I emailed her again today. I put you in the email. I CC'd it to you. So you'll see, we just want to know, it's been a long time now. They said a few weeks, but it's been, almost 6 weeks. So,
Okay, I see it. I see it. It's sent it at 5:50. Thank you.
Yeah. So
yeah.
what they said was apparently, so as we're on the downside of COVID, they are in the upper Midwest. I think they're maybe Colorado or some, where in the West. So I think that they had, it was hard for them. They had a lot of people working from home or whatever, so it delayed them. But they're on notice. I have been every week or so. I was thinking maybe if they hear from you too, I don't just be like more bothering them until they do it. But
Okay, I got your back on that one. I'll follow up with them too.
okay, thanks.
Thanks, Maria. That's all I have, Ken.
Thank you. Jay, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add? What about it?
No, I guess the only thing, the ADA improvements at the town hall are in the really boring paperwork phase, but that's moving forward. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll actually start making a mess in there. I'm trying to get that schedule nailed down, and as soon as I know what it is, I will warn everybody.
To the ADA bathroom work, Jay, and the ramps and the doors for the court.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to return to our agenda. So we had some discussion items on our agenda. Actually, most of them have actually been discussed. The recycling clarification. Thank you, Maria, and the discussion that followed. The Hamlet Sewer update was part of my update. We have a sign application review and mentioned here and a guidance for upcoming Halloween events. But I also did want to let people know we have, I believe, 2 agenda items. We usually seek public comment on. These are pretty boilerplate kind of agenda items. I'll read the 2 agenda items. The first one is a resolution to adopt government retention schedule. That's retention of different documents and following the schedule for disposal. Nothing really controversial there. It's really just following the law. And a resolution authorizing Jacobowitz and Gubitz to defend the town of Tuxedo in some tax certiorari proceedings, 3 different ones. So I guess at this time I'll ask if there's any public comment on those agenda items. And Dave, I'm not looking at the screen right now. I'm looking at my packet. So would you let me know if there's anybody requesting to make comment on that?
Okay, we could start. Anybody that would like to make a comment, please send a message in chat and I'll unmute you. Give you a few minutes, a couple minutes.
Yeah, we promise you won't be overlooked. So if you could send it through the chat, we'd be happy to.
And actually, we can continue the meeting. We'll catch up on those questions should they occur, Ken.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Ken, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
On the, not everybody was on the meeting when we talked about the potential governor action on Halloween. So if you just want, maybe we could just repeat that.
Oh yeah, I was just about to introduce that. So it sounds like you just did. So you could run with that one, please, Michelle. Go ahead. The Halloween event and what we've.
Sherry Brooks was planning a Halloween event at Powerhouse Park, and I know that the Tuxedo Parks Fire Department also wanted to hear some guidance on what we thought might be a good plan for them, but for their fire department event. But we've been notified by 2 people in the public that the governor is planning to issue guidance on that, and it could possibly be a ban on Halloween events. But we'll have to wait and see if it's house to house, or is it, could you have a centralized Halloween event? We won't know what the executive order is going to be until he issues it. But just a quick overview, Sherry was thinking that she would have a trunk and treat event, which I know she's done before at Powerhouse Park, and break it up into age groups. But families, if they have children in different age groups, would be together. So it'll be complicated, but I think before we go too far with it, we'll just wait and see what the governor has to say, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I would imagine advisal about Halloween. You will see it on the news, and Halloween is actually a big event financially to the country, and of course to the kids and those not so young who want to celebrate Halloween. So to be continued, but of course we will be following the guidance and gubernatorial resolutions distributed by the governor. So I also see sign application review. I think we had 2 sign applications I saw in an earlier packet. I'm not sure if it's in this packet. So I don't know if we want to.
Yeah, no, Donna did send that application. It was the one in Southfields and one for the commercial property on Route 17.
Are these applications that need action today? I'm not sure. Is this? I know the one about the Tuxedo school property we've discussed before, and I think I'm open to discussing it. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this discussion item. Are we trying to take action and approve them? Could you please clarify that for me?
I'm just wondering, and I don't know if Marissa, you've been following this. Do we have to wait till we have
Adjustment to the code?
zoning? Yeah, or is there some way we can
These
move on
are
this?
these are applications that we looked at already.
Right,
And at that meeting, when we looked at them, we determined two things. We determined that A, they didn't meet the current regulations, and B, because for sale signs are already mentioned in the code as being an unregulated sign, and that's fine. We couldn't approve them as another kind of sign because that kind of sign has already been mentioned. I made a hash of that, but that's what it was. So I think if the question is why are other people on 17 able to have signs and these guys aren't, that question has to be answered by A, are those signs legal? And if they are, have they filed their permits? And if they haven't, they better hurry up and pay their money. Or if those signs aren't legal, then Dave Makish needs to go tell them to take them down.
right.
The town clerk's office did not receive a sign application for the one in Tuxedo by Red Apple.
The auto body.
Correct.
So then maybe Dave needs to pay him a visit and remind him that there are rules. Or I don't know if that's something that Donna does as town clerk and say, hey, here's the application you have to fill out.
I don't think it's her role to have to, I don't think it's the town clerk's role to track down people who have that, I mean, that seems like an
No,
That's
that's
the building
No,
inspector.
That's
she's
enforcement.
That's the building inspector.
yeah,
Right.
it's a building inspector issue, and it has to be because if they were to challenge whatever we say is wrong with it, it needs to come from the building inspector for
Okay.
state law. So
So
make sure
if
we
I
do
may
that.
add, I'm sorry, Marissa. If I
Okay.
may add, I had a conversation with Dave Makish about the signs. And so part of it is the way that the law in our town is in terms of the amount of power that a building inspector has. So he doesn't really have like power to, let's say, fine someone for having the wrong signs. The only power he has as per our town code is to take someone to court after warnings or so. So he's been trying to take like the carrots and sticks kind of approach with people. But then, if you have to take someone to court, first of all, it takes like a few months and then it's expensive for the town. So one of the conversations that we had that, I wanted to bring up to the board was whether we can change our laws or think about it or talk about it to give Mr. Makish the ability to fine people for breaking the rules.
Well, I think what it is he needs to be able to baseline write a summons, whether or not there's a fine associated to it. I think that's like a second offense sort of a scenario. But I believe you're correct, Maria. I believe if he's utilized in that particular area, we definitely need to empower him in a resolution somewhere.
There are other municipalities that give the building inspectors that kind of power to summon, to issue summonses. And I think that, that might actually make things happen a little bit quicker for him, since he's one person in a big town, a wide area. I think that, I think that's something that we need to talk about and perhaps
Okay.
make.
I agree. I think that's probably something we need to send through legal review as well. So we need to get a snapshot of what some examples in other townships are using in regard to that particular code. So, Marissa, if you have any input on that too, you know.
Yeah, Dave, I was just gonna suggest that. I'll pull a couple of examples from some of the towns that we also represent, but some others as well, just to give you kind of an idea of the rainbow that people use for sign
Okay,
enforcement.
thanks so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yes,
And I think the signs, Maria, has he asked them to remove the sign?
He's had multiple, according to him, I don't know if he's in the call here today, but he's had multiple conversations with them. And, you know, various issues, one way, you know, here and there with them is illnesses. And so he was trying to, you know, work with them in some way. But apparently there hasn't, you know, been much that he has been able to do in terms of them changing it. So he has been working with them. But, you know, again, he doesn't have any ability to go to the next step unless you go to the, you know, taking them to court kind of step.
Right.
Right, but
Thank you.
be clear, the law says that he can issue a violation, and a violation has a fine of up to $5,000 and or 6 months imprisonment. And our code says that every week that a violation goes uncorrected, it's another violation. So yes, it may take some time to bring that action to court, but if he brings them, and if he writes them a violation and they on a Tuesday, and he goes back on Tuesday and they haven't fixed it, he can write them another violation. And each one of those has to be answered. It's what we got. It's what we got to work with right now. So, and the first question is, to this particular discussion, are those signs in violation?
I think that one isn't that left up to the local determination of the building inspector, the way it's written?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess he would be the one that would advise us there. I know we've been trying to get the answer, but I think we have to engage him.
Well, I know we had extensive discussion on the real estate sign category, and I don't have the code in front of me, but I recall basically the signs mentioned were of the lawn type sign that would typically be used for residential real estate transactions of sale or for rent. I think it was Councilperson Jay, that Reichgott, who was opining about the size and the differences between commercial and that smaller type real estate sign. But the verbiage that was in the code was definitely vague, and it was only specific that particular number real estate. So it did not separate anything additional about commercial. So I think we all kind of agreed that that was something that needed to be rectified in our code.
Right.
And myself personally, I'm leaning towards the larger type of a sign. I think it would be more like I think it meant we were talking about square footage, 4x8, something. I think it was typical kind of sign size that we've seen in some of these applications. That sounds reasonable to me. I think one of the things that would need to be in there, though, is, you know, how many of these signs could be put on a property? I would think it might be determined by the amount of frontage space on a road. I mean, you know, if a place had 100 feet of frontage, I mean, how many signs would you need? If it had 1,000 feet, maybe you'd need 2 signs. I don't know. That's for discussion by the board. But I think the size of the sign, and as was mentioned, there is code in there about maintaining signs. I think that was one of the concerns, that signs wouldn't be up there forever and start to deteriorate. So I think it was also pointed out that those aspects were dealt with in the code. So it seems to be, without having to rehash the whole thing, you know, I'd suggest that the town board try to take action on that very limited aspect of signage related to real estate. And certainly the associated nature of the power of the code enforcement officer. You know, it was just stated that he can issue a violation. So although that doesn't mean he can't. I think it is accurate that he can't fine, but that is an action that I'm sure would rattle the cage, so to speak, of the offender. If you got a violation that, as Jay pointed out, could rise to $500 and then be revisited every week subsequently, that should get somebody's attention. So I'm not sure. Maybe Marissa can advise us as to, um, when a violation is issued, how does somebody respond so that they don't get a week later another violation? That's not clear to me. I don't know, Dave, from your experience, if you've dealt with that before, but it's kind of new to me.
No, it's so Ken, I think we all understand quite plainly that our sign laws are very vague, and they need to be way more concrete and very simplified. I don't think this is rocket science, right? So simultaneously, I agree with Jay. I mean, we should be able to give the offender a violation, and I'm not sure if he does that now. I think we need to know more about what his workflow is. I have no idea. I don't know what terminology he uses when he takes the people to court, what that instrument is called or anything, right? So we need to get that information first.
Okay, I'll definitely sit down with and get a firsthand understanding of that process. I think we need to compare it to what our code says. Marissa, even just finding out, how is the job of code enforcement officer defined in our code? I can't say I've actually waded into that particular verbiage. If that is defined, even if you would even peruse, just to let us know,
Yeah,
is
I'll
there
pull
something?
it up right now. Hold on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of these changes we've discussed, I've made some of those changes already in previous months after meetings, but it's not comprehensive because we haven't really gone through the sign code as a group yet, and I believe that Bonnie hasn't touched that with you guys in your workshops. So there are a lot of outstanding questions, and so this is good to have this discussion. You figure them out a little bit more. Hold on, let me pull it.
Yeah, ultimately, Ken, right now, the condition we're in right now, the building inspector insists that he has the right to interpret the code. So with the code being vague, then that interpretation could be vague as well. So we need to tighten that up.
No, I'm agree. I'm not disagreeing in any way. I think for the sake of being able to take action, the one issue that was pending and was certainly this commercial real estate sign.
Right.
So I guess I'm suggesting that I know it's always best. Maybe not. It's always best. I know we were contemplating trying to deal with the code in its entirety, so to speak. This is the one element, though, that is persisting and needs attention. I think we could probably knock it out in a 15-minute discussion, either tonight or at the next meeting. And certainly between now and the next meeting, between Marissa and even just directing us to the most significant verbiage in our code that describes the authority of the code enforcement officer. We could just solidify.
34.
Sorry, Jay, say that again.
Section 98-34. And the violations and penalties 98-35. And I'm all in favor of we can make an amendment to the zoning, but it's not a weak process because we have to make a new local law. So we got to come up with a draft. We have to have a public meeting. We have to do the whole thing. So it's going to be
yeah,
a little
I
bit
think
of time.
correct. Thanks, Jack. I think the question here is whether or not you want to make all these changes in a separate local law before you get to the entirety of the zoning, or if you want to wait for the zoning in its entirety to be.
I think we need to address this one at a band.
That's where my head is at. I think if we don't, then just for the sake of trying to move everything forward, this is the one that's persisting. This is the one that landowners and people trying to market their properties want addressed, and I think we can get that done. Even though, yes, as you point out, Jay, it's the process, but we're talking about it, addressing that process in a very limited scope of current issues.
Well,
That's
we have 2 sign applications before us, plus we have 2 or 3 what are currently violations of the code. So there's 5 situations that we need to address. And also, the question's been brought up about auxiliaries or accessory signs. And we have to clarify what that means. I think it means if you're a business, then you can have a large sign in front of your business identifying who you are and what it is. So with those, that's not defined either. So we need to define those things and deal with these 5 issues that are outstanding.
Which signs are violations?
Well, if you say that for rent and for sale signs are violations, then it's Tuxedo, Tuxedo Water Bottle,
Okay, I mean, so
and
there
Red
are,
Apple Rest.
right, but those may not be violations.
Well, I'm saying if they are,
Right,
if they
I mean,
potential.
right. I mean, businesses are allowed, as you say, are allowed to have freestanding signs and are allowed to have window signs. And the rules for those are currently defined in the code. And Marissa can jump in if I'm saying the wrong thing, but we can't tell people what those signs can say. We might be able to get somebody to take down a pornographic picture, but we can't weigh in on what their sign content is. So if they've got a window sign or a freestanding sign that meets the requirements of the code, and it happens to say for rent or for sales on it, that's legal. It's vacant sites that don't have a business or other primary use on it can't have a freestanding sign because that would be a principal use, because the only use for that would be being a sign.
Yeah.
That's in the code because we were trying to get rid of billboards.
Well, I just think it needs to be clarified. Accessory signs.
Okay.
Okay. I'm making a list of all these items. So what I'm going to suggest is that I first have a list of everything that everybody has brought up tonight. In addition to, I have plenty of notes from our other meetings where we've talked about this before. And just get that solidified and send it all to you very quickly so you can take a look. And if there's anything else that you want me to fix or add to or look up or find, models from other municipalities, we have that set. And in the meantime, I will work on the items that I know need to be worked on. And then we can look at that as a separate local law, hopefully for the next meeting, if not the one after that, depending on how long that takes.
So for my own mind, we were talking about these freestanding commercial real estate signs. From again, what I remember from the code, that one of the issues was square footage on, and definitely there was a category of signs related to real estate, and maybe that one remains more for the home style sales as opposed to this commercial real estate. Jay, I know you've given this a lot of thought, so if you could guide us so that could get this resolved, if not at the next meeting, as Marissa's saying, the one after that, because I'd like to see this narrow code about signs come to some fruition.
Well, I mean, I think that if all we're trying to do is take care of, for want of a better word, commercial for sale signs or commercial for rent signs, we could basically have a local law that adds another category of sign that doesn't require a permit define the size and height and all the rest of it of that. And then since we only want it for commercial properties, identify it as only being in the commercial, only being a permitted use in the commercial districts, whichever they are, neighborhood business and general business. And I can't remember off the top of my head, or somehow otherwise define where that particular for sale or for rent sign could go, so that we don't have, giant 4 foot by 4 foot for sale signs in front of every house that's for sale. And then if we're trying to clarify other bits of the sign code now, we can, as Marissa has suggested, we can come up with a list of those things. And just like we amended the parking regulations for the central business district, or, existing buildings, we can amend the sign code through a local law. And then we can just capture those things as we do the updated zoning. We'll work those into the zoning, the overall zoning for signs that we're going to be contemplating.
Well, it sounds like you have a pretty solid grip on what needs to be done. I'd welcome you to run with that. And I don't have any objection to the basic thought here. We're talking about commercial real estate signs, freestanding, trying to look at, as you said, a local law very particular to those needs. And I think there was just a few other little things with some of the other signage, but I'd like to see that move forward. I haven't heard anything that doesn't make sense to me as to.
Okay. I mean, we'll in a minute, I'll shut up and let the rest of the board weigh in. But if Marissa, you want to collect up what you have as sort of because I haven't been taking notes, as the list of issues to circulate, like you suggested, and everyone else can, when they get that, if we left something out, let us know. And then Marissa and I can work together to get this sorted. And we'll put together a model local law for review, right? We got to get something on paper so everyone can tell us why it's wrong.
Correct.
I have a very optimistic view of that, and I think we're going to be giving a thumbs up and moving that forward. So thank you. Again, I think now about the building inspector, this is more of a broader issue. This notion of empowerment, whether he can actually write a summons or issue a violation. My layperson's hat says, wow, what's the difference, right? Issuing a violation or writing a summons. I guess that's where Marissa's law degree comes in real handy, because that's not clear to me. What's the difference between a violation and a summons? I guess a summons, does that have a dollar amount already attached to it? Maybe you could help us with that, or at least me.
The summons just means that the court's involved. The violation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to court or that you're being sent to court. A violation could mean, if you're in violation of the code, like if you have a zoning code violation, doesn't mean you're going to court. But the way it's written, hold on, let me pull it up really quick. The way it's written now, yeah, the way it's written now, it's just civil penalties that can be charged. That's something that has to happen through the court system. There's no general monetary fine, just a municipal fine that's empowered right now, which is what we've been talking about.
All right, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marissa. I didn't mean to cut you.
No, go ahead.
So I guess we might have our nomenclature backwards on what Dave is doing then, Ken, because the only action he can take, as he's described to me through the years, is that he can take someone to court. So that matches what Marissa just said in terms of a summons. What then he might be lacking is the ability to do a more formal and localized violation with a monetary value attached to it that's executed not within the courts of the town of Tuxedo, but within the town clerk's office or the building department, something like that.
Correct. And he's authorized as well so he can send you a violation letter, right? And say your sign is too big, whatever's wrong with it. If you do not do anything within that time period, within 30 days from the date of the notice that he gives it to you, according to the code, he's allowed to remove it. And obviously it costs money to remove these signs. Some of them are large, right? That can be assessed against the property. I don't know if he's taking advantage of that portion of the code at this point. That gets into other issues, whether or not the people are going to pay their tax bills. You know how that is. Going forward from there, though, he doesn't have any ability other than taking the sign down to give you a penalty that entices you to take it down, or to work out or figure out how you can fix it. So that's the whole purpose of this violation letter, avoiding court so you don't need to go to that point, but still fixing things. And he doesn't have that ability at that point. At this point,
Right, and that's
something that needs to change.
And that's where, like you said, Ken, we don't want to be bullies, but that's where the building inspector could introduce some courtesy in timing, right? So he could say, I've noted a violation on X, Y, and Z, and you have to have that remedied no later than 30 days, or then you will have to be subjected to a monetary fine, something like that, right?
No, I mean, right now, we're just talking about signs, and it sounded like after 30 days of ignoring a violation, the building inspector or the code enforcement officer, I don't know, those also seem to be two separate titles.
Yes.
Code enforcement officer and building inspector. And sometimes because we're referring to one person here in Tuxedo, those jobs get blended in people's minds. And that's also a challenge, I think, here. Because right now we're talking about signs, but how about all the other violations that a code enforcement officer would be looking at? Somebody builds a chicken coop too close to somebody's property. I mean, are we saying after 30 days he could go in there and lug the chicken coop out of there? I mean, so it keeps, I think the sign issue is easy to wrap your head around, but all the other potential violations and, I'm surprised that this hasn't been dealt with earlier, that this hasn't been an issue over 100 years in Tuxedo or however long we've had a code enforcement officer. This just seems to be something that it's coming across that we've empowered, a code enforcement officer with not a real bag of tools to get the job done, if that's what I'm hearing correctly.
Yep.
Yes, I mean, that's exactly what he's, the way he was explaining it to me was that he basically doesn't have a lot of sticks, so he tries the carrot kind of approach with people, trying to talk to them, trying to, coax them and, giving them a deadline and another deadline. But basically, he doesn't have a lot of power to change something.
No, that I understand, and it's very surprising to me that this could have gone this long without resolving that. That's surprising to me, I got to say. And so I'm looking at Marissa and just hoping that we can get some guidance. First of all, if that's really true, how do we get along this? How do we get this far without having resolved that? And it kind of looks like, no matter what your codes say, if there's no enforcement, it's just words on paper.
Yeah, definitely correct. That's how enforcement generally works in the municipal field, unfortunately. And I think up to this point, we probably were hopeful when this was written, it far predates my time, but that you wouldn't need a monetary fine, right? That Mr. Makish or whoever his predecessor was could just go to the property owner and say, hey, you're in violation. They would fix it quickly, or he wouldn't have to go all the way to court, and it would not get to that point. It seems like that's not been working though. So if we can empower him to give him more sticks, that would be helpful for him.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's not the intention of anybody on this board, just to go straight to the stick. I mean, but it's got to be in the code. I mean, it's got to be clear that. First of all, we don't want a code enforcement officer just to have to go out with a chainsaw and try to cut down every sign and every violation. That's not what we're looking at. We of course want, these are residents and business owners. Of course, we want an amicable relationship, but there's got to be something within time frames and something simple. I mean, even if it started with $100 fine, you start to get somebody's attention without having to threaten getting lawyers involved in things. No offense, but
As far,
we
as
want
far as I can
to
see,
move things forward.
as far as I can see in section 33 above, if there are repeated violations, the building inspector can yank a property certificate of occupancy until the violations are corrected. That
Well,
doesn't
that's
cost any
hardly
money,
toothless.
except if you don't have a certificate of occupancy, you can't run your business.
Yeah, so I mean that's hardly toothless. That's
Now I may be misinterpreting that because I'm an engineer, not a lawyer, but not to spring it on you, but
No. Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
98-33 dot
Mhm.
1.
so I
Like you
guess
said,
we
you know,
want to see
these
letters of violation. It seems like we want to see these letters of violation.
Well, you know what, Ken? Like you said, why haven't we heard about this before? I think this sign conversation over the past couple of months was the spade in the dirt for this particular conversation. But Dave has never complained about this particular subject prior to my recollection. So I think we can't even further this discussion until we interview, or you interview, Dave, and he outlines his process for us. From A to Z on, what he wishes he had, and here's what he can do. Until then, we're just going to beat the horse around, trying to figure it out.
Correct. And I'd like to see, if there's so many properties that are in violation, allegedly, I do not know if they are or not. It seems like we're unsure of that as well. We need to get a list of those properties because they're not all going to be the same problem. And there may be patterns that we want to see from those properties, what the exact issue is that can better inform what the code should look like and anticipate.
And Ken, I'm sorry, Marissa, cut you
No,
off
it's
again.
okay.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Don't forget, we can segue into remember we talked about amnesty for lack of COs, right? For work that was done without building permits. So this whole thing has to be rolled up into one big discussion and formula and, resolution or whatever. I don't know. We're going to have to take this one and put it under the microscope outside of the normal band. So that's just my 2 cents, but I think we all agree to that anyway, right?
Yeah, I agree. We've been kicking around the fines for people that don't go for permits for additions before. We've done that before, but we never got to an end. So we need to finalize all of that as well, and within the whole scope of the code enforcement.
I mean, the only challenge, not the only challenge, but obviously the challenge there, when you try to resolve every problem in the code, it takes on a life of its own.
No, I mean just about code enforcement, just that role.
Yeah, no, I think it. Look, I'm going to have to take a good look at, building inspector versus code enforcement officer, and I'll be reading section 98, 34, and 35, and section 33 about repeated violations and this notion of 30 days and loss of CO. I mean, those are substantial penalties. And, I will be sitting down with Dave Makish, and but it's certainly something we all need to understand as we try to make amendments to the code.
Sounds like we need 2 job descriptions and an audit on what's happening with those outstanding violations and the concerns that Dave has about enforcing them. So,
look, I'm a big stickler, and you and I have had these conversations about job descriptions. These are the kind of things that get left in the sock drawer in small towns, from what I could see.
I agree with you.
And we don't have an HR department, and we don't have many departments for that matter in general. And these are the kind of issues that just kind of get left to the side. And so, which could be frustrating for the people also who try to implement the job. What direction do they have as to, what should they be doing? So I hope if Dave was listening to this conversation, I do understand the ambiguity of some of our code. And I think this board is committed to trying to resolve that. But again, I'll just say, I think we do need to narrow it to problems as they become really need to be dealt with, because we could end up just looking at this for way too long and not resolving the problem. So I think we've committed to trying to finalize the signs issues and probably get better distinction on the powers of enforcement for the both the building inspector and code enforcement. And I guess there's some overlap in those jobs, but I would imagine in some towns, those are two separate people in two separate positions. And again, that's where it gets a little blurry when it's one person doing both jobs.
Great.
That's my layman's take on this so far.
Okay, agreed.
So I wouldn't want Dave to think that, I'm sure he's been trying for over 16 years to, I think now we're going to try to help him. I hope that's what we're communicating here.
Well, yeah, because right now he doesn't have a path to a solution. He has to invent it on the fly. So that's the main thing.
And as Maria was saying, they've started a dialogue. We'll continue it and try to refine it.
All right, cool.
Okay, I don't know if we've beaten that horse to death, or at least guided that horse in the right lane.
Agreed.
So I think that came on the discussion item, sign application review. So wow, you could see how conversations take on branches of their own. I'm going to move to the agenda items. I think we got in a chat if anybody had any questions, but you know what? We'll go over the items, and if somebody does have a question about it, I think we'll extend the courtesy to find out what it is. How about that? Does that work?
That's fine.
Okay. So I'm trying to find, I'm looking at agenda item number 1. If anyone else on the board would like to read this so that the public gets to hear a voice other than mine, I'm sure they'd all welcome that. I don't see the screen, so if there's a volunteer, Michelle, you can certainly ask somebody to read it.
Well, I think you need to make a motion first, Ken.
Okay. All right. I'd like to make a motion to review the resolution to adopt government retention schedule. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Dave McMillan. So I don't know if you have it in front of you, Dave, if you want to read this to the public. I don't mind doing it, but like I said,
Okay, I'll read it.
I appreciate it.
It's called Resolution to Adopt Government Retention Schedule, correct? That's number 1.
That's
the one
correct.
I'm looking at, Ken. Okay. A motion was made by Ken English, seconded by David McMillan, that retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records issued pursuant to Article 57-A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records is hereby adopted for use by all officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. Further resolved that in accordance with Article 57-A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records LGS-1 after they have met the minimum retention period described therein. B, only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods.
I'd like to open this for discussion.
So-
I have a.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So I have a question. Are these records mostly paper records, or are these records do they get digitized? And just a question.
We don't have any digitized records, so we can take that one off the list. But yeah, I'm supposing, and Donna, you can jump in here. It's all we have is paper records, correct?
Yes, we're starting to try to get them digitized, but in the MU1, it's now called the LGS1, and it just lists vouchers or various different classifications, and then it tells you how long you have to keep them, and then the court, they have to put into the state to get rid of them, but we can just go in and destroy them as needed.
And do you have the LGS1 retention and disposition schedule available?
I sent it to everybody. It's
Okay,
like 400
all right.
pages,
Okay,
400 or 500 pages. I emailed it to you. You want me to read it now?
Nah, you know,
Yeah, Donna,
I'll start reading it tonight.
Yeah, it's very big.
Okay.
And if you don't see it, Dave, let me know. I'll resend
No,
it to you. But I
I
sent
see
it
it now, Donna. Sorry, I didn't
Okay.
notice it
out. No,
before.
that's
No,
okay.
I guess my question was just the motivation for this. I believe, Donna, that this was kind of introduced by you. Is that accurate?
Well, no, it comes from the state, and it has to be renewed by January 1st. It's a whole new schedule, updated schedule that comes
I
from
guess
local governments.
That I kind of get even just from reading it. I mean, this isn't something any of us made up. It's really just following a schedule and knowing
Right.
what, having gone up into the attic, knowing, wow, maybe we can get rid of some of this stuff. So
We
that's a
got
good
rid of a
thing.
lot of it so far.
Well, hopefully according to this schedule, but
Of
yeah,
course.
I know I'm saying that's fantastic. And so I think that's the motivation here, but as you're advising, this is a somewhat updated retention schedule. I think you said it comes out every year, but it seems like maybe
No,
this.
not every year. It's
Okay.
not every year.
So this is
I
a
don't know
new.
how often, but the MU1's been out for a while, and it was called CO-2 and then MU1. It comes out every few years. I guess they update it.
Does it also include digital information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So obviously the digital side, it's now you're talking about server fees or storage fees as opposed to, all this literal boxes of paper, which is definitely an issue. So I don't think there's much to discuss here. It's an implementation thing and an awareness
Right.
Right.
that
The policy.
that our clerks need to understand they have the authority to do this, and that it's just made clear as we go into those old boxes that they're labeled, which can be shredded. And I guess, do they also give, I don't see any guidelines about actually how to dispose of these things, but maybe that's in the 400-page guidelines as to.
We have a shredding company come in.
Okay.
We also had Rob Dolbaum at the highway was burning down something up there, and he burnt them for us. So we saved a lot of money.
Okay. The most sensitive ones, hopefully they're getting shredded.
Hey, highway does it all.
Yeah, no, I know. I would just say, I've worked in other organizations where when something wasn't shredded and somebody thought it was okay to just put it in the garbage, it became a real problem.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we're doing the right thing. No, nothing insinuated there.
No.
So I think we're ready to take a vote on this unless there's further discussion that anybody wants to have on this. I'm going to consider that closed for the town board members. So I'm going to take a roll call vote on this. Councilperson McMillan?
Aye.
Councilperson Maria May?
Sorry, aye.
Councilmember Jay Reichcott?
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay?
Aye.
And Supervisor Ken English, myself, aye. Thank you. And Donna, I hope that gives you the go of green light to empty that attic. There's a lot
Put
of
put the burning barrel out back.
as best as you can. All right,
Okay,
agenda
thank you.
item number 2. I'll just take this on 2020-2021 tax certiorari proceedings. This resolution, this item number 2, resolution authorizing Jacobowitz and Gubitz to defend the town of Tuxedo in the following cases, 2021 tax certiorari proceedings. I'll make a motion and seek a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Maria May. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the following tax certiorari proceedings have been commenced against the town of Tuxedo to contest the 2021 tax roll. I'll read the names and the index numbers. The first one is JP Morgan Chase Bank, index number EF003240-2020. Second one, the Tuxedo Club Incorporated, index number EF003790, calendar 2020. Millennium Pipeline Company, LLC, index number 905-2020-20, obviously 2020. Special franchise in parentheses. So now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Tuxedo, Orange County, New York, that the firm of Jacobowitz and Gubitz is hereby authorized to defend the town in the above-mentioned cases. I'll open this to discussion.
Hi, Ken. I'll open that. So we were, I think the last meeting or the one before, we had some certiorari business, and we were afforded at least some information prior to that vote. What were the specifics about those particular certiorari's? I don't have any recollection of any one of these unless I missed something. Was there, and I'm not going to tie up the resolution because I understand, how this process works. But is there any way we could, in hindsight, get a look at what these agreements were?
Well, these aren't agreements, actually.
Yeah.
This is just to hire the attorney. So,
Oh, okay, okay.
right. So, Dave, this is just starting the process. I'm sure we could certainly review what the
All right, Ken, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
No problem. I think there was confusion earlier as well. So, yes, we could certainly and should understand what's being grieved here or what's being contested. And I'm pretty sure Jim Davies would be happy to explain those. But yes, as we just discussed, this will be just to assign the attorney. The last time there was a conflict, that's why we had to use another attorney that was referred by Jacobowitz and Gubitz. But apparently there's no conflict in any way here, so they can handle this for us. If I'm saying that right, Marissa.
Correct. Yeah, and I forget one of these in the list we just got like a week ago, so we're not at the settlement stage yet.
All right, thank you.
Just beginning. Yeah.
Well, I kind of go along with a little bit of what Dave was saying, in that it would be nice to have a little bit more information. How many more of these can we possibly expect? It just seems we're dealing with a lot of them lately.
Well, you certainly authorized by me, and no pun intended, a joke. Contact Jim Davies. I'm not sure. Is there a deadline when these had to be filed? So, like you're saying, is this it? And also, what's the value behind this? What's the potential impact to town revenue on these cases? I would like to know that, especially with things like Millennium Pipeline. I would imagine they might pay some substantial tax to us, and I'd like to know what's being contested here.
Yeah,
So, Michelle, writing to Jim about that and asking that, I'd welcome that.
Well, I think all the board members would like to know, so maybe we can ask him to join the next meeting.
Well, you could send him an email and invite him. I have no problem for that.
Okay. You could put it on, Donna. I'll try to remember, but maybe we could put it on the agenda as a presentation to the board. So,
Obviously, you
Okay.
can't discuss the cases openly. I mean, that's a delicate issue. I don't know if that's an
not the
executive.
specific cases, but just sort of, as you're saying, the deadlines and,
Well, if
do we want-
Marissa and Howard could guide us as to how to best do that without violating in any way any confidentiality, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, we could definitely have him just explain like the ins and outs of how you grieve your taxes and when that happens and when we can expect these sorts of grievances to come in front of the board. He could give a general like idea of how long they take. It depends on how much they want to grieve and how much they want to protest, and if any settlements do go anywhere. Most of them, they get settled pretty quickly, just generally, because people don't realize that it's going to take a lot of effort in order for them to get maybe not a lot of money back after all the attorney's fees they're going to spend. But that, as long as we didn't discuss any of the specifics within each complaint, within each tax grievance complaint, then that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, no, I'm more interested in, for all the ones that we currently now have before us, is it taxes they paid for 2020 that they are looking to be reimbursed? Is it future taxes? Is it just the town portion? Does it include the library and fire department portion of their tax bill? How does that all work? Does the fire and library know that this is happening? There's a lot of,
I think those are a lot of good. I'm just reading the resolution again, and it does say for the 2020, 2021 tax roll. So,
so Marissa, I understand the proceedings that lead up to a resolution for a certiorari are protected by privilege. But once that agreement is reached, is it still protected by privilege, or is it a public document?
A public document at that point.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
because
Right,
last meeting we actually voted on a settlement, and it was very specific who it was, how much, it was being reduced from this level assessment to that level of assessment. The particulars were in the resolution. So.
oh yeah, I think once something's agreed to, that's public record. There's no doubt in my mind. It's the
Okay.
process that.
I think I knew that. I just wanted to make sure that people in the public knew that. So that's why I brought that up, Ken.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm not. I appreciate all of this conversation. I think it's helpful to all of us, and hopefully the public as well. So, I just want to make sure if we're inviting Jim that he has a clear directive as to what we want him to do and what the purpose is. So, Michelle, we could discuss that as we author an invitation to him, and under the guidance of our attorney, to make sure that we're only asking him to do what it is we should be asking him to do.
Got it.
Okay, I'm ready to vote.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote on this resolution, starting in the typical order. Council Member McMillan,
Aye.
Council Member Maria May,
Aye.
Council Member Jay Reichcott,
Aye.
Council Deputy Supervisor Michelle Lindsay,
Aye.
and myself, Ken English. Aye. All right.
Okay.
I didn't give an opportunity to our department heads to give a report. I apologize for that. I'm struggling with a very outdated computer here. And I think the chief might still be on our call. If that's correct, I'd like to offer.
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you.
Chief, thank you for hanging in there, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wanted to give you the opportunity to
Okay, Ken, I think you froze there. Okay. Just a few things. Lucky Park was painted over. The graffiti was painted over. Detective Stefan Christian, you got the teens together. Rob Dolbaum supplied the paint, and Sherry Brooks from the parks told us what was wanted and requested, and the detective made sure everything was taken care of. So that's taken care of, and I thank the detective and everybody involved in getting it done. September is range week for the police department, so we will be training with the town of Woodbury up at their range. All officers must be certified in firearms. As you know, with COVID, we train twice a year. It was the first range date was canceled, so this will be our second one. And also, we are finishing up. All officers are attending the procedural justice police training at the police academy, and that's going to be required by the state probably next year. So we're getting a head start on it and get everybody to attend these training classes. So that's a good thing for us. Keeps us updated and following the modern police practices here in the town of Tuxedo. So I want to thank everybody. Appreciate the time, and have a good night.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
I received a call today from someone's a neighbor of the park, just to say that we don't all get thank yous, but he wanted to make sure that he wanted to thank everybody involved for getting the skate park painted.
Yeah, it looks great. Jay, I think this is a good segue for something that you wrote, which piqued my interest. And we don't have to make it a long, drawn-out conversation. We're just going to put it on a table, but for guidance. But you had mentioned the community service opportunities in Tuxedo, and I thought that was a good idea. Do you want to pitch that really quickly, so we can get it refreshed?
Yes. So one of the vouchers that we're going to be voting on and probably approving later in the evening was put in at the last minute. It is something like $120 in payment for a young man who spent a day sorting rocks at the dirt pile as part of the cleanup process. And my thought was, if we, and when I say if the town of Tuxedo's justice courts hand out community service punishments, whatever the right word is, can we make the hand sorting that needs to be done at the dirt pile cleanup an eligible task for community service? And then, if that is an eligible task, can we let neighboring jurisdictions, whether that's the Orange County Sheriff or whoever, know that this opportunity, get it on the list of eligible community service projects, and that way we get well, relatively cheap labor to do this relatively labor-intensive work.
So I don't think anybody's going to know the answer to that right offhand, but I want to say that I think it's a great idea. I don't understand how you get into the community pool per se from the court level, or a judge will remand you to do community service. So it's something we're looking for. We have a lot of jobs we could add to the list.
I want to go back.
There's a lot of trash around our roads, by the way, too, right? So
I just wanted to go back to department head updates. I know, obviously, Donna Matthews is on the line. And Donna, if you have any updates you'd like to share.
I'm good this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Is Rob Dolbaum there to tell us about that we have mulch available, or where is Rob?
I don't think so. There's one call-in user, but I'm not certain who it is, Ken. I can unmute it for a second and see. Who's calling user 3, please?
If it's not Rob, then
It's not. Okay.
it's not
So,
required
go ahead.
that you identify yourself. So Rob, obviously I spoke highly about the work that's going on at the dirt pile and the team that's working over there, and just indirectly, as Jay had just mentioned. So that's what I would have to add about what Rob's working on right now, currently. Rob definitely did work hard on getting the new gate at Lucky Park. And we've actually, I will mention, we tried to come up with an idea as to how to resolve access to Lucky Park for residents. So Rob and I discussed what the lock on the new gate would look like to Lucky Park. And he investigated that we could get a keyed lock that has non-duplicated keys that we were thinking could be distributed to residents who apply for them that use Lucky Park and would want to be able to park their vehicle in there just while they're in the park using the facility. It would cost about $500 to have enough keys. I think it was 50 keys. These would be numbered keys. People would have to request them and fill out a very basic form that helps them to understand you can only park there while you're in the park. This is not a key to be given out to other people. If you signed up for the key, your license plate would also be connected to the key. So like, and there's no overnight parking or anything like that. So I'm glad that we're talking about that, because I think that could be a pretty easy fix to give people access, because we have this nice gate now. And actually it also will be, if it hasn't already been done, it was requested that a bar be affixed to the gate that would prevent four-wheelers from passing that gate, which is in violation of town code. And Rob assured me that that will be taken care of. And there will be a bar that just basically closes that gap. And so I guess I do want to bring it before the town board right here. Is this an expense and a procedure? I could have the form drafted up with myself and Sherry for the next meeting. It would be a very simple application, and it would be only for town residents to be able to park in Lucky Park.
So I would say, Ken, I think my only concern would be it would probably need to be a latched mechanism, not a padlock. And that would also have to have an auto closer on it, so we don't have a resident leave the gate open and invite out-of-towners to, also park within there. So something, and that's all I really had to add, but I like the idea.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm understanding the problem with the padlock.
Well, it's going to force the resident to remember to have to go physically walk over and put the padlock on. You might invite somebody with a lapse of, memory for a second. I know I would on occasion. Oh, I forgot to close the gate. So you take that right out of the mix, that decision process, by just defeating it by making the gate auto close and auto latch.
Well, that sounds like an automated kind of thing, which would be very expensive.
Yeah, it's a spring and a latch mechanism. That's pretty much it.
But what locks the latch, though? I'm not sure.
Well, it would be something that would have to be built into the gate itself on both parts, just like a deadbolt on a door. It's going to close and latch and lock from from anybody else getting in without a key. So it's just a bolting mechanism like you have on a regular home door, just an industrial strength one. Right. And I'm just throwing that out there as a concern. Jay might know some alternatives. I'm not certain.
Not off the top of my head, but it seems to me that if you found a padlock that can have 500 multiple keys, there's no reason why think of it as a regular door lock couldn't have 500 multiple keys.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then by putting a spring on the door, again, you can't forget to close it and lock it, because it closes and locks itself. And the only other thing that I would add is that gate does block access to fire water draw point. So we have to make sure that the fire departments have a way of accessing it. And they like a combination. Can't lose the key.
Yeah, they have to have that, of course. And there is a lock that on it that was with a combination. It was discovered that the combination was already given out to other people. And so that was the problem why the combination needed to go to the next step. I'm not sure. We could look into this bolting latch. I have no problem with it. I think we're probably talking about, I've heard guesstimates that maybe 10 people would come for the key to Lucky Park. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't come up with that number. So I just want to make sure we're not coming up with a Ferrari fix for a Volkswagen problem. Let's.
Understood.
Question about what if people that aren't immediate residents want to visit a park like that? Let's say that, somebody that lives in, a different part of town, but is a town resident. Then
It's not just for that part of town. It's any town resident would get a key. Anybody who wants it who's a town resident could get a key. No matter whether we do a latch or whatever. It's not restricted. It's just a very specialized park. I mean, it's a skateboard park. I mean, if you've ever been there, I mean, it's not getting a lot of draw except people for skateboarding, as far as I could see. I've been there at least 5 times.
Right? Don't fishermen use it?
Well, there's a fisherman parking lot already. No, so this is for the skate park. Maybe fishermen use it, but that's not what it's intended for.
Yeah, they can also use the computer lot.
We're not talking about access to the park. Anybody can come and skateboard here or do any other legal activity. This would just be a key to park there instead of having to park over at the, I guess, the train station and walk down.
Yeah, so we can't keep everybody out, residents and non-residents, but we can segregate those that are allowed to park because they're town residents. And that would be verified.
Question.
Say again. Yeah, I guess you're right.
I didn't hear the last comment, so I don't know what that is.
So by law, we can't say Tuxedo residents are only allowed to use Lucky Park, but we can say,
although it is on the sign that's there.
Well, I know, but we're kind of working around, I guess, an obviousness, right? But by law, we could, by code, only allow access to parking to verified town residents. Is that correct, Marissa?
Correct. That's what's in our proposed local law that we haven't adopted yet.
Okay.
I mean, let's be clear. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to solve an issue. People driving through there on 4-wheelers and parking, and it was just out of control.
Right.
And so now we're trying to come up again. We're trying to come up with solutions that, within reason. There was a gate put in, but it didn't keep out the 4-wheelers. So now we're trying to fix that part of it. Then a lock was installed with a combination, but the combination was given out to other people. So I think we're down that rabbit hole of where are we at now? What's the next step trying to fix this? We're not trying to keep anybody out that wants to skateboard. We're just trying to keep only town residents from parking there. And because who was parking there were also hikers. I'm hearing fishermen, and it's a skate park. So anybody who comes to town hall and asks for a key and they can prove they're a resident and wants to park in the skate park while they're skating or sitting in there, will be happy to give them a key. That's my understanding of what we're trying to do. And if that doesn't prove to work out, I think then we could go to the next level. But we could do this for $500 and try it out. And if it doesn't work, well, somebody could scold me at a later meeting, and
I think it's worth a try.
All right, Ken.
So I want to be clear. I will ask about the bolting latch. If that could be done with any amount of reasonable expense, I think we'll go for it. But right now, we're already into this for a pretty expensive gate and a lock that now can't be used. And we could do this for $500. And I think anybody who wants a key, lives in this town, can get one. I don't think there'll be any that, drive a car and want to go skateboarding. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Michelle, you want to go skateboarding with me? I think my wife was telling me I'm a little too old for that. But anyway, so I'll try to write up an agreement, which will be as simple as possible for obtaining a key, and it might not pass Supreme Court scrutiny, but hopefully it'll move the needle forward a little bit.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. So I asked Rob, we all spoke for Rob and Donna and the chief hopefully has ran for his life after he gave his report. And is that it for our department heads? Am I missing anything? I'm getting tired.
Brian's on the line.
Brian, we got to do vouchers, but if you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, just the vouchers. Unless you guys have any questions on the vouchers.
Okay. I'm going to go down. Michelle, where are we at with our flow chart here? Our board packet. I think we're getting time.
Yeah, well, it's we need public comments and any other business that comes up before the board. And I do have
Well,
one thing.
public comments is optional, and public comments on just anything. Is that where we're at?
That's where we're at.
It's 8:43. Comments could be submitted by email or in the next meeting. I'm going to move to vouchers. So I'm going to make a motion. Resolved. I'll make a motion. Somebody could second in a minute that the following vouchers have been ordered by the town board and hereby approved for payment. Claim numbers 201-291-7291 through 201-291-7378. Voucher number 201-291-7237 was deleted. Expense was not the town's. Do I have a second on this?
Second from Dave.
Seconded from Dave. Any discussion on the vouchers?
I'm
No.
good.
I'm good.
Okay.
I
I'll
think
take that.
7237, I have that in there by mistake. I copied and pasted. That was last meeting. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so that shouldn't even been in this report. Thank you,
The
Donna.
deleted one, no, sorry about that.
No, I did actually see from the numbering. Yeah, that couldn't have been in there. So thank you for pointing that out. So delete, strike that from the record. That's not part of this voucher resolution. So with no discussion, I'm going to take a roll call vote. This Dave McMillan,
Aye.
Maria May,
Aye.
Jay Reichcott,
Aye.
Michelle Lindsay,
Aye.
and Ken English, myself, aye. Okay. I'm at the ever popular adjournment.
Before
Can
you
I
go
just
there,
ask, can I just throw in one thing? It's the zoning workshops. Let's just be on the lookout for an email. I don't know who's going to organize, but we should get a few more scheduled.
Very good. And I'd like to remind the town board that we do have an interview tomorrow evening. Trying to prepare for that. If you have any questions, they should be submitted to me tomorrow prior to the interview. Otherwise, we're going to, because we want to have a uniform list of questions. And so I'm going to move towards adjournment.
before you do that, Ken, I just have one point of information. I was looking
Okay,
in the
please go
code.
ahead.
In our code, the building inspector is defined as being the code enforcement official. So it's two names for the same person.
Any serious job description there, or is it?
Yes, section 37.
Okay. If you could send a link to all of us just to help us find it, although I'm sure I would be able to, I'd appreciate it.
Bottom of the left-hand side of the town website, go to the E-code.
No, thank you.
Okay.
So you said it was 37?
Got it. Yeah, I'll send out an email with the applicable sections for people for easy finding.
That would be appreciated. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to make a motion. This is going to be the adjournment motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:46 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
I believe that was Deputy
Michelle. Yep.
Supervisor Michelle. I'm going to do the roll call vote. Dave McMillan,
Aye.
Maria May,
Aye.
Jay Reichcott,
Aye.
Michelle Lindsay,
Aye.
and an enthusiastic Ken English. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned in 2 weeks, if not sooner.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you.